He wasn't supposed to survive. Not this moment. Not this room. Not the quiet countdown echoing beneath fluorescent lights that hummed like a tired confession. And yet there he stood, still, watching, waiting, as if something inside him refused to let go, as if somewhere beyond the cold steel table and the faint scent of antiseptic, a memory was knocking softly, asking to be heard. And in the corner of that small county shelter just outside Tucson, where the desert air slipped through cracked windows carrying dust and sun-worn silence, a German shepherd named Rex stood with ribs faintly visible beneath a once proud sable coat, his amber eyes dulled but not empty, never empty, because even now, with seconds slipping like sand through unseen fingers, there was something in the way he held himself. Not fear, not surrender, but patience, the kind only time and loyalty could teach, the kind forged in places far from here, where heat shimmered over broken roads and the sound of boots on gravel meant life or death, and the young technician beside him adjusted her grip with quiet hesitation, sensing something she couldn't name, while a wall clock ticked louder than it should, each second stretching, bending, refusing to pass cleanly, and Rex did not move, not when the tray rattled softly, not when a distant door creaked open somewhere down the hall. He only shifted his gaze once, slowly, deliberately, toward the entrance, as if measuring the distance between what was and what might still be, as if remembering something carried not in thought but in instinct, buried deep beneath time and absence. And outside, tires rolled to a sudden stop on gravel. A truck door slammed harder than necessary. Boots hit the ground fast, urgent, the kind of urgency that doesn't come from reason but from something heavier, something that pulls at a man's chest without explanation. And inside, the room held its breath without knowing why, the air thick with a silence that felt almost sacred, and Rex blinked once, just once, as if aligning himself with a voice not yet spoken, as if somewhere in the distance, beyond walls and years and loss, a command was already forming, waiting for the right moment to break through everything that had tried to erase it. And in that fragile space between ending and memory, between forgetting and being found, something unseen shifted, not loud, not dramatic, just enough to matter, just enough to whisper that this story was not over yet. The door does not just open. It breaks the silence like a memory forcing its way back into a place that tried to forget. And Staff Sergeant Daniel Hayesand steps inside with breath caught halfway between disbelief and something far more dangerous, hope, his boots leaving faint dust prints across the polished floor as the desert heat clings to him even here, even in this sterile room that smells nothing like the places he remembers. And for a second he does not see the dog. He only hears the faint hum of lights and the ticking clock. But then his eyes land on the table, on the shape of a German shepherd standing too still, too composed. And something inside his chest tightens without permission, because there is a posture there, a discipline, the kind you do not train out, the kind that stays even when everything else is taken. And Daniel slows, one step at a time, as if approaching something sacred or fragile or both, his voice caught somewhere behind his ribs as he studies the worn coat, the faint scars, the way the dog's ears tilt just slightly toward the sound of his movement. Not fully, not yet, but enough to matter. And the technician glances at him with quiet confusion, unsure why this stranger looks like he has just walked into a battlefield instead of a shelter. And Daniel swallows hard, his throat dry, because memory is not kind. It does not come gently. It arrives in fragments, in flashes of sunburned roads and distant echoes, and a silhouette running ahead of him through dust and noise. And he shakes his head slightly as if to clear it, because this cannot be the same dog. It has been too long, too many years, too many names lost to time. And yet there it is again, that small detail, a faint line behind the ear, barely visible unless you know where to look. And Daniel knows. God, he knows, because he had traced that same line once with steady hands after a long day, murmuring something low and quiet that only the dog would understand. And now those same hands hang useless at his sides as doubt and belief pull against each other. And he takes another step closer, slower now, careful, like approaching a memory that might disappear if he moves too fast. And Rex does not back away, does not grow tense. He simply watches, his eyes no longer dull but searching, as if trying to place a scent carried on the air. Something familiar but buried under layers of time and distance, and Daniel finally exhales, a breath he did not realize he was holding, and in a voice softer than the room deserves. Almost afraid of the answer, he says the name he has not spoken in years, Rex, and the word lingers there, fragile, uncertain, hanging between them like a thread that might either break or pull everything back together. And for a moment nothing happens. The clock ticks, the lights hum. The world continues as if this moment means nothing, but Daniel does not move. Because somewhere deep inside, beneath doubt and fear and everything he has tried to bury, he feels it, something waiting, something listening, something that has not forgotten for a heartbeat that feels longer than the years between them. The dog does nothing, and Daniel feels it, the weight of silence pressing against his ribs, because sometimes the absence of recognition hurts more than loss itself, and the technician shifts slightly, uncertain, glancing at the clock as if time still has authority here, but Daniel does not look away. He cannot, because something in those amber eyes is moving, slow, hesitant, like a door opening from the inside, and Rex tilts his head just a fraction, not the playful curiosity of a pet, but something deeper, something searching, as if sorting through layers of scent and sound and memory, and Daniel's hands tremble slightly now, not from fear, but from the fragile possibility that he might be wrong, that this is just another dog carrying a resemblance that means nothing, and yet he steps closer, just one more step, careful, respectful, like approaching a fellow soldier, and the room seems to narrow around them, the hum of the lights fading into something distant, something unimportant, and Daniel's voice comes again, steadier this time, but still low, almost reverent. You remember, do you not? And the words are not really for the dog. They are for the space between them, for the years that tried to erase what once was. And Rex shifts his weight, paws adjusting on the cold surface with a quiet scrape, his ears lifting just a little higher now, his breathing changing, deeper, more focused. And there it is, the smallest crack in the stillness. The faintest sign that something has reached him, but it is not enough, not yet, and Daniel knows it. He feels it in the way his chest tightens, because memory does not return all at once. It comes in fragments, in echoes, and sometimes it needs a key, something precise, something only one voice can give. And Daniel closes his eyes for the briefest moment, drawing in a breath that tastes like dust and sun and distant roads. And when he opens them again, there is no hesitation left, only certainty shaped by years of trust. And he speaks the first command, the one that used to anchor chaos into order, heal. And the word lands between them, simple, familiar, carrying the weight of countless repetitions under open skies and harsh conditions. And for a second it feels like it disappears into nothing, like a stone dropped into a well too deep to hear the impact. And the technician exhales softly, almost ready to move forward again. But then Rex's body tenses, not in fear, but in recognition struggling to surface, his head lifting higher, ears now fully alert, eyes sharpening with a flicker of something alive, something aware, and Daniel sees it. That flicker, that spark that refuses to die, and hope rises again, quiet but undeniable, because somewhere beneath the years and the silence, something in that dog is waking up. Something that remembers what the world tried to take away. The flicker does not fade this time. It grows, subtle but undeniable, like a distant light, finding its way through fog, and Rex's body shifts again, not randomly, not uncertain, but with a precision that does not belong to instinct alone. It belongs to training, to repetition carved into muscle and memory long before this room ever existed. And Daniel sees it in the way the dog's spine straightens, in the way his ears lock forward, fully engaged now, listening not just to sound but to meaning, and the air changes, something quiet but powerful moving between them, something that does not need words to be understood, and the technician hesitates, her hand hovering, unsure now, because this is no longer routine. This is something else entirely, something she cannot explain, and Daniel takes another step closer, slow, controlled, his boots soft against the floor, as if he is walking back into a moment he never thought he would see again, and his voice lowers even more, steady now, grounded in a certainty that has replaced doubt. Stay with me. He murmurs, not a command, Not yet, but a promise, and Rex's eyes lock onto him fully for the first time, truly lock, and in that gaze there is confusion still, but layered beneath it, something older, something that does not belong to this place or this time, something that remembers without fully understanding why. And Daniel feels it hit him all at once, the weight of years collapsing into a single breath, because this is not just a dog, this is a partner, a witness to moments no one else alive can truly see. And he swallows hard, his throat tightening as memory presses in from all sides. The heat, the dust, the endless horizon where trust was not given. It was earned one command at a time, and now that same trust stands in front of him, fractured but not gone. And he knows what comes next, the one command that always cut through confusion, through noise, through fear, the one that demanded focus, demanded purpose, and he does not rush it, because timing matters, because this moment is fragile, balanced on something unseen. And then, with quiet authority that carries years of shared history, he speaks again. Rex, just the name, nothing more. And the response is immediate this time, not full, not complete, but real. The dog's tail gives the faintest movement, barely there, almost like a question, and the room seems to lean in, the silence deepening, as if even the walls are waiting to see what happens next. And Daniel's chest rises slowly as he prepares for the final step, the one that will either bring everything back or let it slip away forever. And in that suspended moment, between what was lost and what might still be found, hope stands its ground, quiet, unshaken, refusing to leave. The moment stretches thin, fragile as glass, and Daniel knows there will not be another chance like this. Not another breath where the past and present stand this close without breaking apart. And he steadies himself, grounding his voice not in hope, not in fear, but in the quiet authority that once guided them through chaos, the kind that does not demand, only reminds. And he takes one final step forward, close enough now to see the fine tremor in Rex's whiskers, the subtle rise and fall of his chest, the way his eyes search not the room, but him, only him. And Daniel lowers his gaze slightly, not as a sign of weakness, but of trust. The same trust he had offered years ago in places where hesitation could cost everything. And then he speaks, soft but clear, each word placed with intention. Check the corner. And the command does not echo. It settles. It sinks into the space between them like something returning home. And for a fraction of a second, nothing moves. The room holding its breath once more. The technician frozen. The clock forgotten. And then it happens, not slowly, not uncertainly, but with a sudden clarity that cuts through time itself. Rex's body shifts with precision, his head turning sharply toward the far corner of the room, muscles aligning as if guided by an invisible line, his stance tightening into something unmistakable, something trained, something remembered. And he steps forward, one paw, then another, controlled, deliberate, scanning the space exactly as he had been taught, as he had done countless times before. And Daniel feels it like a wave crashing through his chest. Because this is not coincidence. This is not chance. This is memory made visible. Loyalty refusing to fade. And Rex completes the movement, pausing at the corner, alert, focused, every inch of him embodying the command as if no time had passed at all. And the room changes, something heavy lifting, something undeniable settling in its place. And the technician exhales sharply, her hand dropping as realization dawns, because this is no ordinary dog. This is a partner, a trained soul who has carried his purpose through silence and loss, and still answered when called. And Daniel's vision blurs for a moment, not from weakness, but from the sheer weight of what stands before him. And he takes a step closer, his voice breaking just slightly now, no longer commanding, only reaching. Good boy, Rex. And this time, there is no hesitation. Rex turns back toward him, fully, completely, and the distance between them disappears as if it never existed. Because some bonds are not measured in years or distance. They are written deeper than memory. And in that quiet room, under cold lights that no longer feel cold, something lost has found its way back for a moment. No one moves, not the technician, not the clock, not even the air itself, as if the room has quietly agreed to witness something sacred. And Daniel steps closer with a slowness that carries reverence, not urgency. Because this is no longer about stopping and ending. It is about honoring what has just returned, and Rex watches him come, not with uncertainty anymore, but with a growing clarity, his posture softening inch by inch as the sharp edge of duty gives way to something warmer, something remembered in a different way. And when Daniel finally kneels, lowering himself to the dog's level, there is no command left to give, no need for structure or precision, only presence, and he reaches out carefully, his hand hovering for a fraction of a second before making contact, fingers brushing through the thick, worn fur at the side of Rex's neck, and the reaction is immediate, not explosive, not dramatic, but deeply real. Rex exhales, a long, quiet release as if he has been holding that breath for years, and he leans into the touch, just slightly at first, then more, closing the distance that time tried to build between them, and Daniel's other hand comes up instinctively, steadying the dog, grounding himself as much as Rex, because this is no longer memory. This is now. This is real, and his voice, when it comes, is softer than before, stripped of rank, stripped of control. I thought I lost you. He whispers, not expecting an answer, but receiving one anyway in the way Rex presses closer, the way his tail gives a slow, uncertain movement that grows stronger with each passing second, and around them, the world begins to return, the faint hum of the lights, the distant sound of a door closing somewhere down the hall. But it all feels distant, unimportant, because something more powerful has taken its place, and the technician steps back quietly, lowering her gaze, understanding without needing explanation that this moment does not belong to her, that whatever almost happened here has already been undone by something she cannot measure, and Daniel rests his forehead gently against Rex's, eyes closing for a brief second as the weight of years settles and lifts all at once, because in this small, quiet room, beneath artificial light and worn walls, two souls that once walked through fire together have found each other again, not perfectly, not without scars, but whole in the way that matters, and Rex remains there, steady, present, no longer waiting, no longer searching, because he has found what he was holding on to all along, and Daniel breathes in slowly, deeply, as if for the first time in a long while. And somewhere in that breath is a truth he cannot put into words, only feel, that some bonds do not break when they are lost. They wait, patient and unshaken, until the moment they are called back home. The room slowly exhales around them, as if whatever tension had once lived there has quietly stepped aside, and Daniel remains where he is, kneeling on the cold floor with one hand resting against Rex's shoulder, feeling the steady warmth beneath the fur, the undeniable proof that this is not memory, not a dream, but something returned, something real, and Rex stays close, closer than before now, his body no longer rigid with purpose, but grounded in something softer, something that does not require commands to exist, and for the first time since Daniel walked through that door, there is no urgency left in his chest, only a quiet, overwhelming stillness, the kind that comes when a question you carried for years finally finds its answer without needing words. And he studies the dog in front of him, really studies him now, the faint gray along the muzzle, the subtle scars that tell stories no one else here could read, the way his eyes no longer search but settle, anchored, and Daniel lets out a breath that feels heavier than it should, because he knows what this means, not just for this moment, but for everything that comes after, and behind him. The technician clears her throat softly, careful not to interrupt, but needing to understand. Is he yours? She asks quietly, and Daniel does not look back, not right away, because the answer is not simple, not something ownership can define, and after a moment, he nods slightly, his voice low but certain. He is my partner, and the words carry weight, more than she expected, more than the room can fully hold, and she watches the two of them, the way Rex leans into Daniel's side, the way Daniel's hand never quite leaves him, and something shifts in her expression, something that understands this is not a case file, not a routine decision, but a bond that existed long before this place ever saw them, and she lowers her clipboard slowly, the pen slipping from her fingers without notice, because there are moments when procedure no longer applies, and this is one of them, and Daniel finally rises to his feet, not breaking contact, his hand sliding along Rex's back as the dog adjusts easily beside him. as if falling into position he never truly forgot. And together they stand there, no longer strangers, no longer separated by time, but aligned once more in a way that feels both fragile and unbreakable. And Daniel glances toward the door for a brief second, then back to Rex, as if measuring the distance between staying and leaving, between what this place was meant to be and what it has become now. And Rex follows his gaze, calm, steady, ready, not waiting for instruction, but simply present. And in that quiet exchange, something unspoken passes between them, something that says the story is not ending here, not in this room, not after everything they have already survived. And Daniel gives a small nod, almost to himself, as if accepting something he did not come here expecting to find. And as he takes the first step toward the door, Rex moves with him without hesitation, not as a command fulfilled, but as a choice made. And the sound of their footsteps fades into the hallway, leaving behind a room that no longer feels the same, because sometimes the smallest act of recognition is enough to change everything. The hallway outside feels different, wider somehow, quieter, as if the world itself has softened to make room for what just happened. And Daniel walks slowly, not out of hesitation but out of awareness, each step measured, grounded, his hand resting lightly along Rex's back, feeling the steady rhythm of movement beside him, a rhythm that once meant readiness, alertness, survival, and now means something else, something gentler but no less powerful. And Rex stays close, perfectly aligned at his side without needing to be told, his gait smooth despite the years that have passed, as if the path beside Daniel had never truly disappeared, only paused, waiting to be found again. And the sounds of the shelter drift around them, distant voices, the soft clatter of metal, the low hum of air vents pushing against the desert heat outside. But none of it reaches them fully, because there is a quiet space that follows them, a kind of stillness shaped by shared history. And as they pass a row of kennels, a few other dogs lift their heads, watching, curious, sensing something unfamiliar in the air, not fear, not tension, but something calm, something anchored. And Daniel notices it too, the way Rex does not react, does not pull or turn, his focus steady, present, as if he knows exactly where he belongs now. And that certainty settles something deep inside Daniel's chest, something that has been restless for longer than he cared to admit. And they reach the exit door, the sunlight spilling in through the glass in long, warm lines that cut across the floor, dust particles drifting lazily in the glow. And Daniel pauses there, just for a moment, his hand resting against the handle, not out of doubt, but because stepping through means something final, something real. And he glances down at Rex, meeting those amber eyes once more, searching not for confirmation, but for understanding. And Rex looks back without hesitation, calm, steady, present in a way that needs no explanation. And Daniel gives the smallest nod, a silent agreement passing between them, before he pushes the door open, and the desert air greets them with a soft, dry warmth, carrying the scent of sun-baked earth and distant wind. And Rex steps outside first, not rushing, just moving forward with quiet confidence, his ears adjusting to the open space, his posture relaxed but aware. And Daniel follows, the light catching across his face, softening the lines that had once been carved there by years of holding on. And for a moment they simply stand there, side by side, the world stretching out in front of them, wide and uncertain and full of things yet to be understood, but not empty anymore, never empty again. And somewhere in the distance, a breeze moves through, brushing lightly against them both, carrying something unseen but felt, something that does not need to be named, because some things are not meant to be explained, only lived. And as Daniel takes another step forward, Rex moves with him, not because he has to, but because he chooses to. And in that simple, quiet choice, a new beginning takes shape, not loud, not dramatic, but steady, rooted in something stronger than time, something that had waited, patiently, until it could walk beside him. Again the sunlight does not rush them. It settles gently across their shoulders like something patient, something earned. And Daniel takes a slow breath as the dry Arizona air fills his lungs, warmer than the sterile chill they just left behind, carrying dust, distant asphalt, and the faint scent of desert wind that feels more honest than anything inside those walls. And Rex stands beside him, still, grounded, his ears shifting to catch the subtle sounds of the open world, a passing car in the distance, a loose chain rattling somewhere across the lot. The low hum of life continuing without knowing what just changed, and Daniel glances down again, not to check, not to confirm, but simply to see, to understand what it means to have something return that he had already buried. And Rex meets his gaze briefly before looking forward again. Calm, focused, not searching anymore. And that quiet certainty presses into Daniel's chest in a way he cannot ignore, because he remembers what it felt like to walk like this before, side by side with something that did not question, did not hesitate, something that simply knew. And the memory does not come all at once. It arrives in fragments. The crunch of gravel under boots, the sharp glare of sun on distant hills, the steady rhythm of breath beside him during long patrols where silence meant awareness. And for a moment, the present and the past blur together so seamlessly that Daniel almost expects to hear a radio crackle or feel the weight of gear across his shoulders. But instead there is only the quiet stretch of a parking lot and a second chance he did not come looking for. And he reaches into his pocket slowly, pulling out a small, worn object, metal dulled by time and touch, a dog tag that had not left him even when everything else did. And he turns it over in his fingers, the edges familiar, grounding, before lowering his hand slightly toward Rex, not forcing, not offering as a test, just allowing the scent to exist between them. And Rex pauses, his head tilting subtly as he leans in, nostrils flaring once, twice, and then it happens again, that shift. Deeper this time, more complete, his posture tightening for just a second. As recognition sharpens into something undeniable, something that does not belong to guesswork, and he presses his nose lightly against Daniel's hand, not uncertain, not hesitant, but sure, and Daniel exhales slowly, a breath that carries something close to relief, because this is not just memory now, it is confirmation, it is truth settling into place where doubt once lived, and he closes his hand gently around the tag again, his thumb brushing over its surface as if sealing something unspoken. And when he looks back up, the horizon feels wider than it did before, not because it changed, but because he did, because something lost has been returned to him in a way he never thought possible. And Rex shifts closer, not crowding, just aligning, his shoulder brushing lightly against Daniel's leg, and the contact is small, almost nothing, but it carries more weight than words ever could. And together they stand there for a moment longer, not rushing forward, not looking back, just existing in the quiet understanding that whatever comes next will not be faced alone. And as Daniel finally starts walking toward the truck parked at the far end of the lot, Rex moves with him in perfect step, not commanded, not trained in that moment, but choosing, again and again, to stay right where he belongs. The truck waits at the far edge of the lot, sun reflecting softly off the windshield, dust gathered along the tires like it has been there longer than Daniel remembers, and each step toward it feels both familiar and strangely new, as if he is walking a path he once knew by heart, but has not touched in years. And Rex stays close at his side, not lagging, not pulling ahead, just matching the pace with quiet precision, the kind that does not ask for recognition because it already knows where it belongs. And as they move, the gravel crunches beneath their feet in a steady rhythm that echoes something deeper, something that reaches back into memory without forcing it. And Daniel finds himself slowing slightly, not out of hesitation, but because he wants to feel this, every step, every breath, every second that proves this moment is real. And the desert wind shifts gently across the lot, carrying warmth and distance, brushing against them like a quiet reminder that the world has not stopped. It has simply been waiting. And when they reach the truck, Daniel pauses beside the driver's door, his hand resting against the metal, feeling the heat gathered from the sun. And for a moment he does not open it. He just stands there, glancing down at Rex again, taking in the presence that once felt impossible to reclaim. And Rex looks back, calm, steady, his eyes no longer searching, but settled, as if the question that once lived inside him has finally been answered. And Daniel lets out a slow breath, one that carries something close to acceptance, and he reaches for the door handle, pulling it open with a soft creak, the familiar scent of worn leather and old air meeting him halfway. And he steps back slightly, giving space without needing to say a word, and Rex responds instantly, not as a trick, not as obedience for reward, but as understanding, lifting himself into the truck with a smooth, practiced motion, settling into the passenger seat with a quiet awareness that feels almost instinctive. And Daniel watches him for a second longer than necessary, something like disbelief still lingering beneath the surface, because this is where Rex used to sit, this exact place, years ago under different skies, on roads that led through uncertainty and back again. And now here he is, not a memory, not a story told in past tense, but present, breathing, waiting, and Daniel climbs in after him, closing the door with a muted thud that seals them inside a space that feels suddenly smaller, more personal, more real. And for a moment neither of them moves, the engine still. Off, the world outside quiet and distant, and Daniel rests his hands on the steering wheel, staring forward as if gathering something he has not yet found words for. And beside him, Rex shifts slightly, his shoulder brushing against Daniel's arm, not demanding attention, just offering presence. And that small contact breaks something loose inside him, something tight and held for too long. And he exhales again, deeper this time, turning his head just enough to look at Rex, a faint, almost forgotten expression softening his face. And he reaches out, resting his hand gently against the dog's neck, feeling the warmth, the life, the quiet certainty that has returned to him without warning. And as he turns the key and the engine comes to life with a low, steady rumble, it does not feel like an ending. It feels like something beginning, something that has been waiting patiently for the right moment to move forward again. And as the truck rolls slowly out of the lot, carrying them back into a world that no longer feels empty, the road ahead stretches wide and open, not as a question, but as a promise. The road stretches ahead in long, quiet miles, the kind that hum beneath the tires like a low, steady heartbeat. And Daniel keeps both hands on the wheel, his eyes forward but his thoughts drifting somewhere just behind the present, caught between what was and what has somehow returned. And beside him, Rex sits upright in the passenger seat, posture calm, ears shifting occasionally to track the subtle sounds of passing wind and distant traffic, but never straying far from Daniel's presence, as if something deeper than instinct keeps him anchored there. And the sunlight filters through the windshield in soft, golden bands, warming the worn interior of the truck, touching the edges of things that have not been moved in years, a folded map tucked into the side pocket, a pair of old gloves resting near the console, small details that once belonged to a different life, a life that now feels closer than it has in a long time. And Daniel exhales slowly, the rhythm of the drive beginning to settle his thoughts, but not erase them. Because memory does not fade quietly, it returns when it is ready, and he can feel it now, rising gently, not as something painful, but as something unfinished. And he glances sideways for just a second, his eyes landing on Rex, taking in the steady presence, the quiet strength that has always existed in him. And it brings something back, something clear, the image of long roads under wide skies, of silent understanding shared without words, of moments where trust was the only thing that mattered. And Daniel's grip on the wheel softens just slightly, his shoulders easing as the tension he carried begins to loosen, not all at once, but enough to notice. And Rex shifts closer by a fraction, his body leaning just enough to make contact, a simple, grounding presence that does not demand attention, only offers it. And Daniel does not pull away, he lets it stay, lets it exist, because there is comfort in that quiet connection, in the way it asks nothing but gives everything. And the miles pass beneath them, steady and unbroken, the landscape opening into wide stretches of desert and sky that seem to go on forever. And somewhere in that openness, Daniel feels something settle into place, something that had been missing without him fully realizing it. And he reaches down briefly, his hand brushing against Rex's shoulder, not as a check, not as reassurance, but as acknowledgement, a silent confirmation that this is real, that this is happening. And Rex responds with the slightest turn of his head, eyes meeting Daniel's for just a moment before returning to the road ahead. And in that glance there is no confusion left, no hesitation, only presence, only a quiet certainty that whatever lies ahead, they will face it together. And Daniel breathes in deeply, the air filling his chest with something steadier now, something stronger than before. And as the road continues to unfold in front of them, It no longer feels like a path he has to walk alone. It feels like something shared again, something restored in a way that does not need to be explained, only lived. 1 mile at a time the road does not change, but something inside Daniel does, shifting quietly with every passing mile, as if the weight he carried for so long has begun to loosen its grip without asking permission, and the silence in the truck is no longer heavy. It is steady, almost comforting, filled not with absence but with presence, with the quiet certainty of something returned, and Rex remains at his side, his posture relaxed now, no longer alert in the way of duty, but aware in a different sense, grounded in the moment. His breathing slow, and even as the landscape rolls by in wide stretches of sunlit desert and distant hills that blur softly at the edges, and Daniel glances at him again, not out of doubt, but out of habit, the kind that forms when you spend enough time beside something you trust with your life, and it brings a memory forward, clearer this time, not fragmented, not distant, but whole, a long stretch of road years ago, the engine humming just like this, the air thick with heat, and Rex sitting in the same place. Younger then, sharper, eyes constantly scanning, always one step ahead of danger, and Daniel remembers the way he used to talk to him on those drives, not commands, not orders, just words spoken into the quiet, filling the space between them with something human, something grounding, and he finds himself doing it again now without thinking, his voice low, steady. "You never quit, did you?" And the words hang there, simple, but carrying more meaning than they seem, and Rex turns his head slightly, not fully, just enough to acknowledge the sound, the tone, the presence behind it. And there is something in that small movement that answers without needing language, something that says he never stopped. Not really, even when everything else changed. And Daniel exhales softly, a faint smile touching the corner of his mouth, the kind that does not come easily, the kind that has been absent longer than he realized. And he shifts his grip on the wheel, settling deeper into the seat as the road continues to unfold ahead, no longer something to endure, but something to move through, something to live again, and the sky stretches wide above them, endless and open, the kind of sky that makes you feel small in the best possible way, reminding you that there is more ahead than behind. And for the first time in a long time, Daniel does not feel like he is driving away from something. He feels like he is moving toward it, towards something unfinished, something waiting, and beside him, Rex lowers his head slightly, not in fatigue, but in calm, his body finally at ease in a way that speaks of trust restored, of a bond that did not break when it was lost, only waited, patient and unshaken, until it could return. And the miles continue to pass, steady, unhurried, carrying them forward into a future that no longer feels uncertain, because whatever it holds, they will meet it the same way they always did, side by side, one step, one breath, one moment at a time. The sun begins to lower as the miles continue to fall behind them, stretching shadows across the road in long, quiet lines that seem to mark the passing of something more than just time. And Daniel drives on with a steadiness that feels different now, not forced, not carried by habit alone, but grounded in something deeper, something that has finally found its place again. And beside him, Rex rests with an ease that speaks louder than any command ever could, his presence no longer defined by duty, but by something simpler, something stronger, belonging. And the truck moves through the open landscape like it has done 100 times before, yet this time there is no weight pressing down on the silence, no unanswered question lingering in the space between breaths, only a quiet understanding that some things are not meant to be explained, only experienced. And Daniel's eyes drift for a moment toward the horizon, where the sky softens into shades of gold and amber. And he feels it, that subtle shift inside him, the kind that does not announce itself, the kind that simply arrives when it is ready, like a door opening without sound. And he realizes then that what he thought was gone had never truly left. It had only been waiting, waiting for a voice, for a moment, for a reason to return. And he glances at Rex one more time, not to check, not to question, but to acknowledge, to honor what stands beside him now. And Rex does not need to look back this time. He already knows, his steady breathing, his quiet presence, his unwavering alignment, all saying the same thing without words, that he is here, that he stayed, that he always would. And Daniel's hand lifts slightly from the wheel, resting for a brief second against Rex's shoulder, a simple gesture, small and unspoken, but carrying everything that cannot be said aloud. And as the road continues to unfold ahead, wide and open and filled with things yet to come, there is no fear in it, no uncertainty that matters, because whatever lies beyond the next mile, beyond the next horizon, will not be faced alone. And the wind moves gently through the open window, carrying the scent of earth and distance, and something almost like peace. And in that quiet, steady moment, there is no need for promises, no need for declaration.